And welcome back to part 2 of my 2018 Discraft Underground in the bag. So part 1 I covered putters and mid-ranges. In part 2 I'm going to cover what do I throw for drivers. So fairway, your hybrid speed, and then also high-speed drivers. So as I mentioned in the last video, I throw all my discs for the most part, except for putters, both backhand and forehand. So it's a unique trait that I think I have over most players, and it works out pretty well for me. So I bagged 2 fairway drivers, the Undertaker and the Vulture. I have 2 Undertakers and 2 Vultures. So the first Undertaker I have is a Big Z. It's really beat in. I've had this since they came out. Really flippy because I've been throwing it for a couple years. This is my trick shot disc. You know how you see Eagle throw his D-line FD? I'm not that good, but those are the kind of shots I attempt with this. Doesn't always work out, but they're fun to throw. So crazy turnover shots, both forehand and backhand. Some rollers if I'm feeling really out of character because I don't throw rollers. I'll throw this Big Z Undertaker. But the Titanium Undertaker from Amnats from 2016, this is my go-to backhand power driver through the woods or in the open. So you just rip it with a little hyzer, it flips up, goes straight, has a little fade at the end, but not too much. Highly recommend a Titanium Undertaker. If you're looking for a T-Bird or T-Bird 3 replacement, this is a good first stop for you, a Titanium Undertaker. And the Vulture. So I have 2. First release Big Z, pretty stable, and then an Austin Turner Swirly ESP Glow, which is more on the straight side. So these I use how most people use a Thunderbird from Innova, or maybe even a slower PD from Discmania. So the Swirly ESP Glow I use for backhand drives, anywhere between 320 and 350. I'll reach for this guy. Just nice and straight with a reliable finish. Nothing too fancy about it. Not too stable, not too flippy. Kind of the Goldilocks of fairway drivers, just right. And then the Big Z Vulture, I use this mainly for Anheuser forehand shots or shots into a headwind where I would normally throw my Swirly ESP Glow. I'll reach for the Big Z. These are pretty stable. Not quite as stable as my machetes that I'll discuss next, but they're nice and beefy. As I alluded to, next up are my machetes. So I carry 2 first run Zs. So the blue one, it's brand new. For me, this is a utility disc. I use for skip shots, both backhand and forehand. Some really forced turnover forehand shots in the woods that I can throw, on an angle kind of like this, and it's still going to come out. I know it will. Or maybe some spike hyzer shots that I don't want to go very far horizontally. I'll reach for the brand new one. But this pink one I've had in the bag since the machete came out. It's really beat in. If you can't tell, it's a little bit warped. I hit a tree after I threw it really hard. This I use for pretty much every forehand drive in the woods where I need to get about 300 to 350 feet of distance. I throw it with a little Annie. It gets some turn, but still comes back. Really reliable disc. I don't really throw this one backhand too much. I rely on my Vultures for that, or my brand new machete for utility shots, but on a rare occasion I do throw it on a backhand. It's because the Vulture just couldn't handle the headwind too well. Next up are my Forces. I have 2 Forces. I don't throw these too much. I use these as mainly a bridge between my machetes and my nukes, which are my go-to driver. I have Austin Turner Sparkle Signature Series. I use this how players will use their PD, or I was throwing a PDX by Discmania. So kind of a placement backhand or forehand hyzer disc. Anywhere between 380 and 410. I'm kind of reaching for this Austin Turner Signature Force. And when I need to kind of up my stability just a little bit, I'll reach for this Glow Force. So I just got this last week, working into the bag. It's just a little bit more stable than my Austin Turner Signature Series. So on an occasion where the wind's picking up a little too much, I'll reach for this one. And as I said a couple minutes ago, my go-to distance driver is the Nuke. I've been throwing the Nuke for a couple years now. It's a great distance driver, goes really far, but just like with any wide rim disc like the Boss by Innova, it's really sensitive to nose angle. So if you're not throwing these flat, if you're maybe tilting it up in your wrist a little bit, you won't unleash the potential that the Nuke can give you. So make sure you really force down the nose angle and have the spin create the lift on the disc to give you that max distance. So this pink one is my most flippy. It's a little poppy, it's a little domey, it's fantastic. It flies like no other Nuke I've ever thrown. It has late turn in the flight that kind of gives me ridiculous distance. It's a little on the flippy side for Nukes, but once you learn how to control the hyzer angle, you can really bomb this thing. So if anybody has any more of these, please let me know. Then moving up in stability is the 2018 Glow ESP Nuke that was ran for Ledgestone this year. Fantastic. Goes really far, really grippy, not too domey, not too flat, just right. So if I need to bump up my stability just a little bit from the previous Pink Z, I'll be throwing this one. And then my main drivers I use both backhand and forehand are the Big Z Nuke. So I have two of them. This orange doesn't have the Big Z logo on it, so this is a first release. These are a little bit more stable. They're more domey. You know, you can hear that pop. I use this mainly for power forehand shots. I can throw it with a little Annie, it'll come back. If I'm throwing max distance forehand, I'm reaching for this orange Big Z Nuke. But my main driver is this one. Just a regular run-of-the-mill Big Z Nuke. So it's got some turn, it's got some fade, goes really far, doesn't turn over in a headwind, doesn't hyzer out and skip too far. It's just a really good go-to distance driver. So I have a lot of these that I cycle in, but this green one is definitely my go-to. And finally, last but not least, is my ESP Nuke OSs. I have two. One brand new, one pretty beat in. So I got this one from Mr. Ledgestone himself. So thank you, Nate, for giving me a couple of these. It's really beat in. I throw these solely for Anheuser forehand shots. On an open hole if I want to ride a tree line but still hyzer back into a fairway. That's what I use these for. Really my go-to on a forehand drive, if I'm not throwing for max distance, I'll be throwing one of these. Mainly because the finish is so reliable. I know if I throw it on Annie, it's going to come back, regardless of what I do. And then this one, it's brand new. It's kind of a utility disc for me at this point. If I need a little bit more distance out of a utility shot than my first run machete gives me, I'll be throwing this brand new ESP Nuke OS. So it looks like that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about why I throw what I throw, or maybe some mold recommendations or different plastics you could try out, shoot me a comment in the video or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. My name on there is Calzone Falzone. I post stuff all the time. So keep an eye out on more content. I'll be putting out some flight patterns. I don't throw the furthest, but I throw far enough to compete in the pro division. So you can kind of see how do discs fly for somebody that, you know, maybe has mid-tier distance. You know, I'm not a top arm, but I can throw, like I said, far enough. So keep an eye out for those, and throw Discraft, and thanks for watching. See ya.